guys, so this is a 2010 Land Rover Defender Puma. What was happening, I was having starting issues with it. It wouldn't start all the time. Sometimes you would turn the key and it would just click, other times it would start. What I eventually found out was that if I turned the key just slightly, it would then very often fire up. The other issue that was happening is sometimes the internal fan and the radio wouldn't come on, and if I just moved the key slightly, then the fan would come on and the radio would start working. So I realized I needed to change the ignition switch. I went ahead and started to strip the vehicle. This car has a battery isolator. Get the battery isolator turned off. Obviously you're going to be disconnecting wires and that behind the dash, so the last thing you want is power on while you're doing that. So turn the battery isolator off and then started stripping everything. Stripped off this cover around the steering wheel. Obviously the steering wheel's off, comes off quite easily. Disconnected the wires behind the stalks here, and that one screw there is what holds the whole lot on, just a clamp. Once that's loosened, the whole lot comes off. You can see the wires are disconnected. Pretty simple. The wires are 3 different connectors, so you can't really get it mixed up when you put it back together. There's the ignition. There's this ring around the ignition, which is some kind of a protection. You just slip that off. Now the issue comes with getting this whole lot loose. So here's the new ignition switch. There it is there. Connections on the back. You can see the steering lock there. When you pull the key out, the steering locks. And when you turn the key on again, then it unlocks that pin. So I had to take the gauges away. Just one connector at the back there, it plugs into the back there like that. And a little bit of a trick on the connector, you'll see that black plastic piece, as you lift it up, actually jacks the plug out. Pretty simple, comes straight out and can only go back one way, so no problem there with getting anything wrong. The next problem was getting this clamp loose. So the bolts are these shear bolts. Once they tighten it up, the heads shear off and then you cannot get the bolts out. So the 2 bolts, the first one I cut and the second one has to be drilled out on the other side. So this one you can get a small angle grinder in there with everything out the way. And cut through that bolt and that loosens the one side. The other side is a big issue. And you can see on the other side here, underneath there's a hole in the plastic where I have tried to line up the drilling machine. So the other one I drilled out with the drilling machine, and then the clamp comes loose and the whole thing comes away. Here you can see it's loose. At the bottom you can see the holes in the plastic. So here everything's out the way. Then the new one is in, new bolts in, all bolted back in. Pretty simple, just take a photo of the wires so they connect in the same way. Turn the battery isolator back on, everything put back together. So you need the immobilizer close to it, otherwise the red immobilizer light won't go off. So that immobilizer needs to be close to that ring around the ignition. And fire away and start it up perfectly, no other snags, and the vehicle is up and running. Interior fans working, radio's working, and all good to go. Thanks guys, don't forget to like and subscribe.